You're listening to VP3 Radio on the Console Radio Network. Currently playing CJ Garden. All the proof I need.
Is all the proof I need. It's your auburn hair, that gentle kiss. Taste it lingers on my lips. To burn the yearns deep inside of me. That's stronger than any whiskey. Left, your left, hey. Left, right, your left. You got it!
Truck it off. Tom Cruise, roll out. You're watching or listening to We Got Your 6 at 6 Patriot Playtime. We the people, the People's Patriot Project.
To put your skill set, your thoughts, and ideas, or want to help continue the mission, you have come to the right place. We are the People's Patriot Project, and we are the shock and awe when it comes to meeting the needs of our veterans and first responders. We are dealing with a new enemy in today's world where the wounds are not always seen. We want you to be a part of this mission in saving lives and making a difference. Welcome to We Got Your 6 at 6 Patriot Playtime. Here's the WP3 team bringing you today's best heroes hits in the boots on the ground organizations that are saving lives. And as always, Patriot Pride.
Left, your left, hey. Left, right, your left. You got it!
Truck it off.
I'm not supposed to be here. I'm leaving.
See you around, Peterson. I was just gonna say we got like the intro. Okay, we got the intro in the round. Why are you guys hearing it twice? Everything is coming back in. Okay, I'm going to go through here with our intro, and then I'm going to log out and come back in. So, okay, so welcome. That's so weird. Everything. Welcome to our show tonight. This is Andrea here with the People's Patriot Project, and we are bringing you our weekly show / podcast called We Got Your 6 Every week we bring you a guest. Many times we bring you new artists, and we share all the good and sometimes not so good things happening in our world. This week we have a cool guest coming in. We have Mitch Maki with Vietnam War involvement, and he will be sharing, teaching, and educating us on some things that you might have heard of, and a lot of us probably didn't know. And then in a little bit here, Chris Turner will be popping in. He's got some new music he wants to share, and he's busy, so he's coming in after his gig. Tonight's episode is featured by our sponsors, Catch 22 with Derek Iozio, Operation Texas Strong with Bobby and Peggy Kretzinger, and last week they just gave away home number 197. I will see where they're at this week. They give those away to homeless veterans. And then we have the Boho Hobos Hideaway with Warren Iozio and our very own Kira Gwinner, who is usually here to share, but will probably not be here tonight. Brian Kenzer is out there. He's probably sailing or just finishing sailing for the weekend. He's with us and he supports WePP, Business Smart Living Today. This is about American-made products, and it is also to help support People's Patriot Project while you are shopping. And like Amazon, Easy, Amazon, and Costco combined. Come support us, and we'll show you a way to support your health. You'll support an American manufacturer, American jobs, and the People's Patriot Project, all in one simple decision. I have a link here to share with you. And the People's Patriot Project, We Got Your 6 at 6, can also be heard on Reads Across America Sunday evenings at 11 p.m. Eastern. You can find Reads Across America Radio on the iHeart radio app, the Odyssey app, and the TuneIn app. Just search the word READ and you will find that. Thank you to all our sponsors, guests, and viewers. Before we start this week's show, we ask that you take off your hats, stand if you can, cover your hearts, and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Miss Eichmann, kick out for a second and see if that fixes your audio. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It is July 21st, and you are here with We the People, the People's Patriot Project, and we got your 6 at 6, used to be called Patriot Playtime. Scotty Frazier in the house from Texas. Great to see you, brother. Thank you for your support, being there, and your mission all the time. Jeremy Daniels, good to have you, brother. Constant here and a fixture of the People's Patriot Project and his mission in life, and getting the answers for those who served in the Middle East with exposures to the stuff that they had to breathe in over there. He's a vigilant patriot in, having a little choke up there. A vigilant patriot in making sure people know that our brothers and sisters got there. Well, Miss Eichmann is getting all the technical things lined up and doing a great job. I appreciate it. First of all, Dr. Mitch Maki, thank you for being here, brother.
Very happy to be here, Mark. Thank you for having me.
And he's calling in from California tonight, but this is not our typical and regular type of guest, not to minimize him and his efforts and what he does or who he is, but he's got a significant skill set and knowledge in what Japanese American involvement in the history of America, including specifically World War II and those pieces. And so we'll be learning probably things that many of us didn't know. Like an example, I had knowledge of this mainly because it affected my family in a way, but do us as Americans realize that we had internment camps here in the United States during World War II, where we actually held hostage the Japanese Americans that lived here for our safety. And whether you want to hold to that narrative or not, I mean, that's up to you. I mean, it was I don't always trying times when we go through these moments, and not necessarily fair, not necessarily right. But again, something that we talk about on our show constantly is America is less than 300 years old. We haven't got it right from the beginning, and we've been able to change it as we go along. So again, Dr. Maki, thank you for being here, brother.
Very happy to be here, Mark.
And we'll be having more questions here soon. Jonathan?
Yes.
Why don't you have a dog standing on your shoulder?
Because my dog's too big. I'd fall over.
Okay, fair enough. Tell us about the news.
All right. So as we've been kind of going
Careful.
over,
Be careful. Tell us about the news.
as we've been kind of going over for the month of July is Social Wellness Month. Social Wellness Month is dedicated to raising awareness about the importance of maintaining healthy, positive relationships with those around you. We'd like to encourage everyone, of course, to reflect on their own social connections and relationships. The focus would be on fostering meaningful interactions and nurturing existing friendships, as well as building supportive networks. Coming up on July 24th, it is International Self-Care Day. It stresses the importance of self-care as the cornerstone of wellness. Individuals are encouraged to make self-care a part of their everyday routine and turn it into a priority. A wide range of interventions that cover health issues from mental health to therapy for chronic disease can now be self-administered thanks to new approaches and technological breakthroughs. Taking care of yourself is an investment, and that's how it should be treated, and that investment will last a lifetime. July 25th is National Hire a Veteran Day. Each year, brave men and women from the military service return to civilian life, and this day was created to remind job seekers and employers alike that these veterans' experience and dedication can breathe new life into the workforce. It aims to teach people about the value of hiring a veteran. July 26th is Holistic Therapy Day. Holistic therapy treats the human body as a synergy of mind, body, and soul. It aims to bring a harmonious balance among all the elements of the being. Unlike modern medicine, it does not treat an ailment or disease as an isolated problem. Holistic therapy believes every being is a combination of their physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects. So it recommends a comprehensive treatment that works towards nurturing all of them. Holistic therapy supports that an imbalance in one aspect of the self can cause distress in another. The practice of holistic therapy extends beyond the therapy room. It is a self-care practice that centers and nurtures all of our senses. And we have some pretty highly reputable holistic therapy people in our network as well. If you're interested in that, please reach out. July 27th is National Korean War Veterans Armistice Day. Each year, both America and South Korea observe this day on July 27th. The day was started as a way to commemorate and recognize the peace treaty that triggered a ceasefire in a long-standing war. The Korean War is a significant chapter in American history in which approximately 50,000 American troops died in the conflict. Over 100,000 were wounded, and thousands of others were held captive as prisoners of war. On National Korean War Veterans Armistice Day, we are encouraged to take some moments for reflection on the service and sacrifice of American troops during this conflict. And that is all I wrote down for the news this week.
I appreciate you. There is other news out there. Again, if there's things that you want us to feature, share, and put out there, reach out to us. And, if it fits the narrative of the People's Patriot Project and such, Remember, we try to steer away from the political field and those things. And if we promote, we support, and we like how people are involved in religion in their lives, but it's not a piece that we directly have the conversation about. If it is part of your mission, part of what you do, and how it affects your living, it should affect all of us. But we allow you to bring those subject matters up, but it's not something that because we do the best we can here at the People's Patriot Project to be all inclusive to every thought and ideology. And so, Dr. Maki, this is a little unique. Eric Mello, good to see you, brother. This is a little unique in the fact that, and again, maybe you can prove us wrong here. Typically, our guests are from the industries, the fields of military and or first responders. You're an educator, correct?
That's correct.
But your unique understanding, and there's a pivotal piece, like we said in our intro, the involvement of, and you specifically study the role of Japanese Americans in America. Is that correct?
That's correct. And the story that I like to tell, Mark, is the Japanese American experience. And I think the crossover to your show is that in the Japanese American experience, the Japanese American veterans, these are the young men and women who were born in America and served the United States, despite this story that we're going to tell, and how they demonstrated what it truly means to be an American. That they were the sons and daughters of immigrants, but in one generation said, despite being mistreated, we are still going to fight and stand for our country. So you talk about what a patriot is and talk about someone who believes in the promise of America. That's what this story is about.
And so let's start with that. Yeah, you were saying that there was some mistreatment.
Sure.
Tell us the mistreatment.
Let's go right to the beginning. December 7th, 1941, the imperial nation of Japan attacks Pearl Harbor, and it thrusts the United States into World War II. And Japanese Americans immediately began to wonder, what's going to happen to us? Are we going to be treated like the American citizens we were? 2/3 of our community had been born and raised in America, so they were citizens by birth. The other third had been in America 30, 40, some even 50 years, and were American by tradition and by practice and by loyalty. So, and to personalize it, my parents were born in Hawaii in the mid-20s. So they were American citizens by birth because it was an American territory. My grandparents came to America about 1900. So by the time Pearl Harbor happened, they had been here 40 years. And the reason that they didn't naturalize is because at that time, Japanese were specifically prohibited from naturalizing. We were considered aliens, ineligible to citizenship, even though my grandparents had been here 40 years, had raised a family on both sides and so forth. So, and that's kind of true of all the Japanese Americans at that time, whether they were in Hawaii or whether they were on the continent. Well, 2 months after December 7th, February 19th, 1942, Franklin Roosevelt, the president, signs Executive Order 9066. And that sets the underpinnings by which nearly 120,000 individuals of Japanese ancestry would be forcibly excluded from the West Coast. They would lose their homes, they would lose their jobs, they would lose their businesses, they were pulled out of school. And, to personalize it, because I saw Andrea's dog, one of the saddest stories is how so many families had to literally let their animals go because they couldn't bring their dogs with them or their cats. They couldn't leave it with the neighbors because their neighbors are Japanese American and going to camp. Also, they couldn't leave with family. So to this day, if you meet somebody who is in their 80s or 90s and was in camp, I hear them say, I wonder what happened to Skippy. I wonder what happened to Fluffy. Because, for those of us who are animal lovers, the idea of literally letting your animal go and not knowing what ever happened to them would just tear at my heartstrings. But for the next 3 to 5 years, Japanese Americans would live behind barbed wire in camps that were located in the most desolate areas, swamplands, deserts, just open areas in communal surroundings. They would live in barracks. And as you can imagine, we lost our homes, we lost our jobs, we lost our communities, but most of all, what we lost was a sense of place at the American table of citizenship. Were we Americans or were we not? In our hearts, we knew we were, especially the ones that had been born here, raised here. They knew they were Americans, and many of them wanted to go and serve, whether they were in Hawaii or whether they were on the mainland. Well, about a year into World War II, the Army realizes that the war effort is going poorly and that they need more men, at that point, men to go and fight in Europe in particular. And so they decided to create a segregated unit of young Japanese American men to go fight for liberty and justice halfway across the world, while their families on the mainland are imprisoned behind barbed wire. So, what I oftentimes like to ask people is, imagine you're 20 years old. You're a young strapping male, but you're living inside this, essentially a prison camp, and your family has lost everything. They've lost the farm. They've lost their jobs. You had to be pulled out of school. You lost your pets. And when you came to camp, you could only bring what you could carry. So you lost all your worldly possessions. And then the Army says to you, we want you to go and fight for liberty and justice, despite how we've treated you and your family. How many of you say, send me? And how many people would say, oh, hell no? So Jonathan, your immediate reaction, what would you think?
I lean more towards the I'm stubborn. So I would say, fight for what?
And Mark, how about yourself?
I get it. Yeah.
I'm just floored through this conversation. And again, a piece that I don't know that a lot of us know about. And I know the nature of me as a human being, and there would have been a fight on this side of America at that point. So.
Yeah, and I don't want to leave Andrea out. Andrea, what do you think you would have done? Because eventually young women, actually, Japanese American women, said, I will serve in the WACs, or I will serve in the nurse cadets.
And that is so hard because I'm such a patriotic person, but I would be so loyal to my families and friends and neighborhoods that I wouldn't want to. I would be furious.
Yeah, and that's the issue that's the dynamic that tore our community apart, and also tore families apart. As families would say, "Oh, hell no, we're not sending our young sons at that time to go and die." And we want our sons with us because we don't know what's going to happen to us. We don't know where these camps are going and so forth. But on the other hand, many of these young men, and thousands would eventually serve. 33,000 would eventually serve. They knew they were American. In their heart of hearts, they knew they were American. They were born and raised here. Yeah, they might have eaten a little bit of Japanese food at home, spoken a little bit of Japanese with their parents, and so forth. But they listened to American music. They went to the American dances. They watched American movies, and they saw themselves as being all American guys, type of thing. And they also knew, because there was a young soldier, and his name is Kazuo Masuda, and his name will come back in our story. His family was in Gila River concentration camp in Arizona. They lost everything. He volunteered, he went, and they asked him, why are you doing this? Why are you fighting for a nation that has done this to your family? And his answer was, because this is the only way that I know that my family can have a chance in America. Right or wrong, agree with him or not, Kazuo Masuda and the thousands of other Japanese American young men and women understood that in 1943, 1944, 1945, loyalty needed to be demonstrated in blood. right? And the mere fact that they went and they trained and they served in the segregated units, that would be quite a story in and of itself. But here's the crazy part of it. This unit, they were called the 100th 442nd, and they would fight in Europe. They fought in North Africa, Italy, and France. They would go on to become the most highly decorated unit of their size in American military history for their length of service. The most highly decorated unit. Now, unfortunately, it's because so many of them, over 4,000 of them, received the Purple Heart, the medal that you get when you're wounded or killed, as you know, right? But also, this small regimental combat team was eventually awarded 21 medals of honor, 7 presidential citations, numerous Distinguished Service Crosses, and numerous Silver Stars, to again being the most highly decorated unit of their size in American military history for their size and length of service. Let me tell you 2 very quick stories that kind of depict what they went through. And at first, nobody knew what they had on their hands, and they were often sent in first. They were the cannon fodder. They'd take the heaviest casualties. And in October 1944, in northern France, there's the Vosges Mountains, and there was a battalion of young Texas soldiers, 275 of them, all of them white Americans, and they got trapped behind enemy lines, and the Nazis had them surrounded, about 6,000 Nazis surrounding this small Texas battalion. They tried sending in several other battalions to rescue them. Nobody could break through. Finally, they said, let's send in the 100th 442nd, despite the fact that they had just finished a week-long's worth of heavy fighting in Bruyères and Bifontaine. Let's send them in because they've been having some success. And the subtext was, and they're expendable. The men of the 100th 442nd knew they were going to walk into that forest. All of them would walk into that forest, but not all of them would walk out. But they knew that the eyes of a nation were upon them. So they did walk into that forest. They did break through the Nazi line, and they saved 211 of the Texas soldiers. And they caught this on newsreels, and it would play back in America at movie theaters, how the Japanese American unit saved these 211 white American soldiers. But in the process, took over 400 casualties. But that was the math of the day. The other crazy story, and you know, we only have an hour together, but we could talk for days. Another crazy story is that towards the end of the war, the army was pushing the Nazis back into Germany, and the artillery unit of the 100th 442nd, it's known as the 522nd Artillery Unit, they were a part of that, and they were the tip of the spear because they're the artillery unit and they know how to go ahead and scout and see where the Nazis are and so forth. So as they're leading the effort to push the Nazis back into Germany, they stumble across this large encampment, this large installation. They don't know what it is. And as they start approaching the gates, they see large lumps on the ground covered with snow, and they think they're logs covered with snow. As they get closer, they realize they're not logs. They're Jewish bodies, frozen Jewish bodies of the inmates. They fling open the gates and they realize that they are liberating a satellite of Dachau. Imagine the irony. These young Japanese American soldiers are liberating Jews halfway across the world while their own families are back here in the United States behind barbed wire. You know, I want to also share with your listeners that throughout World War II, there was not one documented case of sabotage, espionage, or treason on the part of Japanese Americans. So it's not as if there was a track record or there was some evidence. There was hysteria that these folks, that Japanese Americans posed a threat, but there was no convictions. There were no court cases or anything along that lines. And the 120 individuals that were imprisoned in these camps, there were no charges, there were no trials, there was no due process. And that's, I think, what makes this an American story, and not just a Japanese American story, but an American story of, we value our laws in our nation, right? We are a nation of laws, and our Constitution is so important to all of us. And the rights that it gives to each of us, we need to protect those rights for each other, because if we don't, they can be taken away very quickly.
I'm just blown away, brother, by the content and the real. And so the other day, someone was talking to me, and we got critical race theory trying to get into. And I'm a history teacher, so I try to make sure it is our job, and history is a living piece, because we've all played the game of telephone where you line up 10 or 15 people and you tell the story on one end, and by the time you get to the other end, the story's not quite the same.
Right.
Then we're also reading history books or books that have history in them. And again, the interpretation of one person to another. When I talk about perception, you can have 4 people standing on the corner of the same auto accident, and not all 4 people are going to come away with the same narrative. So why is history living? Because you've got to experience it. And this is a piece we haven't experienced. There was an ironic story that you just shared, that we had our Japanese Americans that were in prison months before, and now they're opening up the gates of Jewish internment camps. Is there a time where our Japanese Americans parallel what Germany did to the Jews with what America did to the Japanese Americans?
So when I tell this story, I often use the word concentration camp, because even President Roosevelt used that term, concentration camp. But let me be very clear. That is in no way an attempt to equate what happened to Japanese Americans in America to what happened to Jews in Nazi Germany. The wrong incarceration of 120,000 people for 3 or 4 years, that's bad, but it doesn't compare with the extermination of 6 million human beings. And I don't think any reasonable person makes that comparison. I mean, what happened in Nazi Germany is really beyond the pale. But what happened in America, because we hold ourselves to a higher standard in America, right? That we failed ourselves in America by incarcerating people simply based on their ethnic heritage. And that clearly was all it was, because as I mentioned, there was no trial, there was no charges, and so forth. And years later, in the 1980s, there's a federal commission that studied the problem, and they said that the camps were wrong, and that the camps were the result of race prejudice, war hysteria, and a failure of political leadership. And I think that aptly describes that period. And I heard what you said earlier about we don't want to get political on your show, but so many times when I say that to young people today, they'll say man, that kind of sounds like today in America. And again, I'm not going to get political on this, but to say that race prejudice exists in America still, war hysteria, that there's wars going on all around the world, and at times it seems like we now are at war with ourselves, and a failure of political leadership. And what I mean by that is, you look at what happens in Washington, D.C., and it's all party line. It's it's either you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, and we don't have that compromise. We don't have that talking to one another and working for the betterment of our nation, and not just the betterment of either party. So I think this story is full of lessons for us to think about. How do we remember that at the core, our common ground is that we are all Americans first, and not that we're blue Americans or red Americans or Japanese Americans, but that we're Americans first. And if we can cling to that. One more story, Mark, just so I can round up this whole discussion, is that In the 80s, there's a bill that's working its way through Congress that would give Japanese Americans an apology and monetary reparations for what happened. Unprecedented at that time. And in 1987, it passes the House. In 1988, it passes the Senate. So we need only one more person to support this bill to make it law. And that, of course, is the President of the United States. And it was called the Civil Liberties Act. The president, as you might remember, in 1988, was none other than Ronald Reagan, right? A very conservative president. And, you know, there are many of us, and I have to admit, I was one of them who thought, oh boy, there's no way Ronald Reagan is going to sign this bill. It's just a little bit too progressive for his political leanings. But so many people who had fought this good fight to get the bill going as far as it did said, no, we got to keep going. And the thing about Ronald Reagan, whether you agreed with his policies or not, most people would agree that Ronald Reagan was a great communicator. He had the ability to tell stories that would touch people's hearts and move them in a certain direction. Well, the opposite was true of Ronald Reagan. If you could tell him a story that touched his heart, you could have a great advocate on your hands, right? So the question was, what story could we tell Ronald Reagan that would personalize us and make it meaningful to him and get him to support the apology bill? Well, remember I mentioned a guy named Kazuo Masuda. He was the soldier that said he's fighting because this is the only way he knows his family can have a chance in America. Well, 2 weeks after he said that, Sergeant Masuda was killed in battle, fighting for his nation, the United States of America. His family is in a concentration camp in Gila River, Arizona. And after the war, they want to move back to Santa Ana, California, and start their lives over again. And they're met with nothing but hate speech, racial taunts, and threats of bodily harm. The Army realizes this is a PR fiasco, that one of its own fallen soldiers, one of its own fallen heroes, his family can't even move back home. So they send out a contingent of Army officers to have a medal ceremony for the Masuda family. And they present the Distinguished Service Cross to the Masudas in front of their home. And in that contingent of Army officers was a young white American captain named Ronald Reagan. Mm-hmm. You can't write a better story than this. Ronald Reagan, as we know, was in the Army during World War II, and he was there as a captain with that contingent of Army officers. That night, they had a rally, a United America rally, and Ronald Reagan spoke to the crowd, and the Masuda family was there as special guests. And what Ronald Reagan said is, the blood that is soaked into the sands is all of one color. America stands unique in the world, the only nation not founded on race, but on an ideal. Mr. and Mrs. Masuda, as one member of the American family, to another, for what your son Kazuo did, thanks. That story was relayed now to President Reagan in the 80s, and his response was, I remember what those soldiers did for America. And it aligned the whole issue with his personal view of America as a multicultural nation. And it wasn't the only reason, but it was a major reason why he signed the bill on August 10th, 1988.
Oh, I got chill bumps, man. It's
And when I first learned that story, I thought, you can't write a better story. That sounds like Hollywood, right? But it really happened.
Well, it wouldn't be too far for Ronald Reagan to be, considering he was an actor and such. But
that's true. That's true.
We constantly remind people in this country that's less than 300 years old that so many times we got it wrong, and we still are getting some pieces wrong, but we do get a chance to amend. We do get a chance to change. It doesn't make it right, but at the same time, we're willing to look and see the flaws and how we do things. It's a blemish on our country. Some people get in the argument that we're the greatest country on earth. I want to believe that. And then there's that little show series scene where the guy breaks down why America's not the greatest country, because you know what? We're the number one consumer of child sex trafficking. That is not something that we should be proud of.
But it is something that we should fix.
Absolutely.
And why I love telling this story is, as I mentioned earlier, I don't think of this as a great Japanese American story. I think of this as a great American story. And in terms of the apology, it demonstrates the strength of our nation to be able to look back and say, we made a mistake. And in a measured way, we're going to atone for that, because we're strong enough as a nation. We believe in what our values are enough that we can admit when we've made a mistake. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, on a personal level, right? When we apologize to our loved ones or we apologize to our friends when we make mistakes, it's because we're better people. And we are a better nation when we are able to confront our past rather than sweep it under the rug.
I appreciate you. I appreciate the time you've taken. We're not done. We've had a guest here sitting in the background a little bit. He's kind of breaking our policy, but we'll bring him in. We got the amazing Chris Turner here. He's driving his vehicle, for Pete's sakes. Chris Turner, good to see you, brother.
What's up, man?
Is that how they wear their hats now?
My vehicle, but I did not want to miss this podcast either, man. We just got done playing the show, so I'm like, I told Andrea, I was like, hey, I'm going to jump on. I'm going to be driving, and I know it's not like regular policy, but I got to do what I got to do, right?
Is that how they wear their hats down in Nashville?
What's that?
Is that how they wear their hats down in Nashville?
It's the way Chris Turner wears his hat. Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's right. My team told me, it's like, you can't wear a ball cap. It's like, you need to wear a cowboy hat. I was like, I'll meet you in the middle. I'll wear a cowboy hat that meets a fedora. And if you can't deal with that, then I'm just going to stick with either my hair with freaking paste in it, or I'm just going to throw a ball cap backwards and be done with it.
Is that a tribute to, I mean, that's like Hank Williams Jr. or Hank Williams back in the day. That's the kind of hat he wore.
Exactly. And I love it because it's got this lip on it that makes me look like I'm Doc Holliday. And I know I'm not a gunslinger. Well, I kind of am, but we'll go with that.
You should say I'm your Huckleberry then.
Mark, it's good to see you, brother. Jonathan, Andrea, and my dude up there in the left-hand corner, man. I haven't met you, man, but I love everything you was talking about. That's really good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Where were you gigging today, Chris?
We was playing a spot called Fat Daddy's up on Kentucky Lake. It was a marina gig, and I love playing there all the time, man. I play there probably about 3 or 4 times a year. It's laid back, it's cool, and I know the owners, and it's really a fun time. There's not a whole lot of pressure. Just go out there and you play your songs and do your thing, and everybody gets into the music, and it takes me back to where it all started, man, like around campfires and stuff like that. And I love doing stuff like that.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's get into one of your songs right away. We've got a classic Chris Turner song here lined up. Something about a boat. Can you lead us into it?
Yeah, man. I love All in the Same Boat. We've got a new record that dropped last Friday called For the Country. And, man, Mark, you've heard my music, but this new EP is really, really great, and I'm really excited about it. We did 2 instant gratification tracks. We got one that's called For the Country, which is the title track, and then we've got Cowboy Like That that's right behind it. Then we've got another one called Let It All Out, Scars, song I wrote with Cooper Lane. It's called Keith. It's a tribute to Keith Whitley, and I'm really excited about the buzz that it's creating down here in town. And you know, All in the Same Boat, I did it with Smo to begin with. Well, we released my copy of it, and then we pulled it because Smo wanted to jump on it because he loved it. And we released his copy, so now I'm releasing my studio version of All in the Same Boat on my own. And I love that song, man, because it's so true to where we all are right now, right? We're all in the same boat. Life sucks, but hey, we're going to get through it together. That's all that matters. I think it's a unifying song for sure.
Amen. This is Chris Turner, All in the Same Boat.
Life gets hard sometimes, it's a daily grind. we start thinking we're sinking, we can't plug all the holes. Running around in circles trying to keep our world afloat. Ain't we all in the same boat?
Yeah, you know I'm in the same boat with you, bro. Go on, slide me a paddle. Let me get downstream. I said, Lord have mercy, got us feeling like a chump. Now we're dumping all our dollars while we're crying at the pump. Clear across the nation, it's as crazy as can be. But my kinfolk know how to cope down here in Tennessee. Yeah, we're still honking, getting cold ones by the case. Ain't no inflation gonna change the way this country boy was raised. So we're still
Soaking up the sun, sailing in the breeze, drinking margaritas and kicking up our feet. Then we start thinking we're sinking, we can't plug all the holes. Running around in circles trying to keep our world afloat. Ain't we all in the same boat?
Oh, come on now.
Help, we all need a little help. Love, when that water gets rough. When those clouds get dark and gloomy, we're just trying to keep it all between the buoys.
Oh, look out now. Here we go.
Yeah, we're soaking up the sun, sailing in the breeze, sipping margaritas, ain't worried about a thing. And we start thinking we're sinking, we can't plug all the holes. Running around in circles trying to keep our world afloat. Ain't we all in the same boat?
Come on now.
Ain't we all in the same boat?
That's right. We in the same boat here, baby. Let me get a full tank on pump number one. We about to take this thing all the way out. Come on. Come on. Oh, yeah. I like it like that.
That is Chris Turner, All in the Same Boat, featuring Smo.
Hey, Mark, if I can just butt in.
Yeah.
Chris, I loved it. I downloaded it already.
My God, that's what I'm talking about right there. We did our job. You got to go download the pre-sale of the new record too, man. It's called For the Country. It's on iTunes right now.
We'll
I tell
look for
everybody,
it.
you know, the more that we pre-sale, the higher we chart on iTunes. So we're trying to get to number one. So make that happen too.
You can hear Chris Turner and All in the Same Boat on WP3 Radio on the Foxhole Radio Network. We have an all-inclusive veteran and first responder lineup, and Chris Turner is always at the top of our playing list, and we appreciate all that you do, Chris. I've got to go down to Nashville and break bread with Chris, hang with his family, go on stage runs with him. It's just been he's a great friend, a great ally, and we call him part of the Patriot, the People's Patriot Project family. That's the first, that photo that's up there now is the first time we met Chris Turner. Actually, 3 months, probably 6 weeks prior to that photo, he was on our show. The very first year we had our show was right after or during that virus thing that people were talking about back in the day, and we had a bunch of people show. Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah, something like that. But it was just a great family gathering of patriots and veterans and people getting together to share their stories, their experiences, and we got to listen to a hell of a lot of great music. And so that's a piece that we love being part of. Great music. There he is, Scotty Frazier again. Great music, great family members, and just it helps us build our community. It helps us reach out to those that might be struggling a little bit. There's no one in our network that's broken. There's no one in our network that needs to be fixed. We're just here to support each other, and not everyone's in the same place. And so when we get some that fall a little bit behind, we reach back and help them up with us. And that's why we do that with everything that we do. Back to this amazing history lesson of the Japanese Americans and a blemish on our country. Which again, I love the phrasing of Dr. Maki and the fact that, you know what, we get to progress. And are there people bitter about this, Dr. Maki? Are there Japanese Americans bitter about this experience?
Well, it's a large community, so I don't want to speak for everyone, right? And the other reality is that with every passing day, there's less and less people who actually lived in the camps. Because for you to have been in the camp, you have to be about 85 right now. So, and for you to be a veteran, during that time, you have to be about 18 years older or so. We have some living World War II veterans who served in the campaigns that I was talking about that are in their late 90s. I just spent time with them today, 99, 100, 101 years old type of thing. It's remarkable, Mark, to meet these people because, yes, you would think, oh, they have so much to be bitter about, but they're not, and as terrible as these stories are that I shared, there are other stories of Americans, white Americans, Black Americans, and so forth, reaching out to Japanese Americans during that time and just showing them tremendous support and care and understanding, like Chris's song says, that we're all in the same boat. I'll give you one very quick example, and there are so many stories that I could share, but the Military Intelligence Service, and these were young Japanese Americans who could speak Japanese, and they would go and serve in the Pacific Theater and doing some other really heroic things. But they trained in Fort Snelling, Minnesota. And, these guys were a long ways from home. They didn't know anybody, and it would snow during the wintertime, and they're not used to snow and so forth. But on Sundays, they wanted to go to church. So they would go to church and sit in the back row because they didn't know anybody. But then the white American families that were at that particular church would see them and go up to them and say, hey, what are you doing for Sunday dinner? And of course, they had nothing to do. And the families would say, you come to our house, you're going to have Sunday dinner with us. And it's just these types of human interest stories that talk about the power of the American spirit, the power of the human spirit, to understand, like Chris again said in his song, we're all in the same boat, and we share more common ground than we do differences oftentimes. And again, these are incredible examples of Americans doing the right thing in a time of crisis. Our nation didn't do the right thing at that time, but there were, and I don't want to sugarcoat it, there are a lot of bad stories too. Sure. That just makes the good stories all the more important.
A little blemish in my family, and I shared this with Dr. Mackey prior to the show, is and I loosely say these words, but they need to be taken seriously. My grandmother was an internment camp guard, and in Sidney, Montana. And the positive part of the story is my father would share the story in how she built relationships with these people. She was a seamstress by trade, and she would make sure that she would take her sewing machine to the camp and would give something for the women to do, and allowed them and helped sew their clothing and stuff, and was part of that, and would invite the families to their homes for meals on Sundays as well. Again, I hate the fact that we were even in that position. I wasn't there, but again, it doesn't make me happy knowing that was a job that my grandmother held, but at the same time, I think they did the best they could with what they had at that time. And I don't want to take away from this picture. I guess I can boldly say Roosevelt didn't get it right. And, Roosevelt is one of the presidents that I would kind of hold up in high esteem in the history of America. another story just to put out there, and a lot of people probably are not aware of this. Abraham Lincoln always has been noted as, you know, a great leader and a great spokesman, and how many of you are aware that President Lincoln had signed a declaration back in 1862 that put 38 Sioux leaders to death in a public hanging in Mankato, Minnesota?
Yes.
Again, when I learned that, I was devastated. Why were we so ugly at one point in our lives? And I'd like to say, you know what, we're that swan that's kind of ugly at the beginning, and hopefully we're going to be this amazing, beautiful. I mean, we're American Eagle. Let's not get that, not swan, but there's these things that are out there, and you got to get out there, and you got to be educated, and you got to learn, and you got to hear the whole story. And I feel more full today because of you, Dr. Maki, and just the little tidbit, little tiny piece of history that should be acknowledged as a gigantic piece, of opportunity, and a place that we were at one point that I'm confident. I'm going to put Chris. I'm going to put you on the spot. Were you aware that we were doing this in America? I mean, you weren't alive then, but did you know there's something we did?
I'm pretty familiar with some of it, but I will tell you this: I don't know, was Ulysses S. Grant before or after Lincoln?
Before. I mean,
before,
during.
right?
I mean, to be honest.
So I am part Cherokee Indian, like a little small part. My great grandmother, she was 50%, and I can remember like Grant gave land to the Indian nation, whether it was the Sioux or the Navajos or whatever, up in South Dakota and North Dakota.
Pelletiers.
Yeah, and then they found out that there was gold up in those hills, man. And then he went in. He allowed for the military to go in, and I think that's where General Custer came in, and they just destroyed everything to take the gold away from them. And for me, you know, being somewhat Native American, I look back on my history, and I'm like, man, you know what? Even though I was part of the country's military and did what I did, it's just it's a pretty crappy situation to actually think about how the government, you know, at that particular time and place, completely destroyed Native Americans. Because if you think about it, man, they were here before any of us were. They truly were. And then to go in there and completely destroy everything that they've built and give them land. And I mean, I think that's where, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, I could be wrong, check the facts, you're the history teacher, but I think Sitting Bull got killed during the whole thing between Custer and Ulysses S. Grant and all that stuff. And I don't think Grant wanted to do it, but he was getting too much pressure from the government to do it because the government was going broke. So they went into the Black Hills and took the land back over. And essentially, I mean, what happened was they gave so much land to the Indians to where they'd have a place to live, but they just did not want the Native Americans to be more wealthy than the government was. And it's really heartbreaking whenever you come to think about it.
I'm trying to put all the pieces together. I believe Sitting Bull got the chance to live out his life working with Buffalo Bill Cody and his stuff, but I can't remember.
He did. Yeah, you're exactly right. But I think ultimately he got shot at some fort. I can't place the fort, but yeah, he rode with Buffalo Bill and all this stuff, and then they was really getting angry because the government was trying to take their land from them, and somebody went to go see him or something like that, and I think he got killed in the process of it. But
sure,
I mean, I could be wrong, but if my memory serves me correctly, I think that's what happened to Sitting Bull.
Well, and I know he's at the Little Bighorn Battlefield, which is that's part of, yeah. So we'll get it right someday with the history. I mean, Dr. Maki, are you familiar with that part, or
just a little bit?
The great thing is it gives us a reason to sit around and drink a beer and talk about it.
Sounds good.
Truth. Just real quick, want to reach out to the team. How we doing on those? Oh, you got it gone. It's done. It's good. Great.
Yep.
We had a little problem uploading your songs tonight, Chris. Just the format wasn't matching our stuff, but we have
It's all good, man. I just love y'all for having me on. I appreciate it. Andrea, you've been quiet. How you doing, girl? Hey, girl. Hey.
Yeah. I'm up here in North Dakota in a freezing room. So sorry, I had to go get some blankets and sweatshirts.
What?
No, it's hotter here. It's hotter here than where you are, Peterson.
Unbelievable.
Really, I know. I'm not complaining. It's just this room.
Are you still in Iowa or are you back in Minnesota?
No, I went home for a day and then I went up to North Dakota to see one of my boys.
Man, you know what? Last year I was in North Dakota and we played a show for some combat vets, and they took us out to, I think it's Teddy Roosevelt National Park or whatever, Rainbow Canyon. That was so beautiful, man. It was so great.
It's cool, isn't it, out there?
The way the sun hits it and it comes down and then the sun hits the Rainbow Canyon and it's just like, it pops, man. It's like, oh my God. That's one thing that I do love about doing what I do, man. I get to see a lot of the world and like a lot of the really cool stuff. So yeah, Rainbow Canyon's at the top of my list right now.
I have never heard anyone say anything so positive about someplace in North Dakota, so I appreciate it.
Hey.
I do have to say my drive.
I'm Native American, man. The Black Hills, dude. I research that stuff.
It's very like the Black Hills, but my drive is like, I seriously, it's a joke. You set the cruise and take a nap, but it's true. It's straight and flat. And
so for our next trick, can anyone say anything nice about Iowa?
Oh, you're funny. God's country.
I'm really trying.
It's beautiful.
Corn.
How about the people are really nice? Can you do that? I don't know.
They grow corn that's already buttered.
And corn makes whiskey, and whiskey
makes corn.
You're singing new songs.
Now we're headed somewhere. I like where this is going.
I don't know. I'm trying to be positive.
Jonathan, you're going to have to cue these because I'm not seeing them. So if you're ready,
they're all the way in the bottom. They're in the music files, not the video files.
Okay. All right. So we got to do this two ways. I'm going to still have you cue them, and then I'll get the other video playing while we're queuing. Chris, what's the next song you want to feature?
Man, I mean, do you guys have to do it for the country?
Yep.
All right, cool. So I'm really proud of that song, and I'll tell you why. So it's My Life in Chronological Order, but the one thing about it is about a year and a half ago, I met a Gold Star family up in Dayton, Ohio. They're called the Zanowicks, and I met them through Warriors on Mission, which we did the Freedom Tour through. And, it's just phenomenal, the people that I've met. And they had a son named Rocky. Well, Rocky was out on patrol one day, and he came back in, and he found out his fire team was still out in the field in Afghanistan, and he went back out to save his fire team, and he took 2 rounds in the chest, and he ultimately died, right? He got killed in action. So whenever I wrote this song, initially we started off with Johnny, and I got a buddy of mine named Frankie Jean Courtney brought it to me. And it was like Johnny turned 18, he volunteered, he signed up to be a Marine. And I told him, I was like, dude, listen, if you want me to cut this song, we've got to rewrite it. He's like, what? I was like, I don't have to have writer's credits on it. Ultimately, he gave them to me because we rewrote it together. I was like, but if you want me to perform the song, it's got to be right. So I changed the word Johnny to Rocky to where, Rocky's memory lives on forever. And the funny thing is like whenever we got done with it and it released last Friday, I sent it to him and I was like, hey man, every time somebody asks me about Rocky and who is Rocky, I tell him he's a badass Marine from Dayton, Ohio, and he truly did it for the country. So I'm really, really proud of this song, and it's very personal to me. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I really do. It's a great song. I'm excited about it. So yeah, that's the one I want to hear. If you guys want to spin it, I would greatly appreciate it. Download it on iTunes right now, man, because The more we download, the higher we chart, and the higher we chart, the more we create noise. And the more we create noise, the more I get out there.
Oh,
This is
there we go.
Chris Turner. Do it for the country.
Rocky turned 18, he volunteered to be a Marine. He got a set of tags and a rucksack, and he shipped into the Middle East. 2 tours in the desert sun, man, he's seen a thing or two. When I asked him why he wouldn't risk his life, he said, you do what you gotta do. I did it for the country. I didn't do it for the money. I did it for the hometown crowd so they can get loud on the weekends when they party. Yeah, I did it for me, did it for you, for the red, the white, and the blue. Yeah, the land of the free. Yeah, I did it for the country. Rocky bought a guitar, man, he learned how to bend them strings. Never thought in a million years he'd play in Nashville, Tennessee. Every night he's in the neon lights, chasing that honky-tonk dream. When I asked him why, he just laughed and smiled, and this is what he said to me. Yeah, I do it for the country. I don't do it for the money. I do it for the Broadway crowd so they can get loud on the weekend when they party. Yeah, I do it for me. I do it for you. For George Strait and Chris LeDuc just to hear y'all sing. Hey, yeah, I do it for the country. I do it for C-O-U-N-T-R-Y. C-O-U-N-T-R-Y. Let me hear you say C-O-U-N-T-R-Y. One more time, C-O-U-N-T-R-Y. If you do it for the country, you don't do it for the money. For the small town crowds, the loud and the proud, for the ones putting in their 40, yeah, do it for the country. Don't do it for the money. Crank it up loud for that American crowd. Now come on, everybody, yeah, do it for me. Do it for you. For the red, the white, and the blue. For the land of the free. Hey, yeah, do it for the country.
That is Chris Turner. Do it for the country. That, and I was thinking about all the words that Mr. Maki, Dr. Maki, has been sharing with us tonight. And then I hear that song and got to say, Chris didn't plan this. We have this background video for when they don't have videos for their song, and that's on there. And I'm watching these iconic pictures of our country and the progress that we've had. And I keep thinking back to the men and women. Doesn't matter. The Ronald Reagan quote that the blood seeping through the sand is all the same color. And we don't get to do this today without the men and women who have given us those opportunities. And that includes our Japanese American soldiers and our Japanese American residents that believe in that red, white, and blue you see behind us and over our shoulders. And gosh, dang it. It gives me just this sheer amount of pride knowing that there are men and women who have laid it on the line for us to be able to sit here and come on a Sunday night and have these conversations. And allow us to do whatever work we choose to do, eat whatever we choose, sing the lyric that we want to sing. It goes back to our pledge. We know why we get to do this. And again, I think these these two amazing gentlemen for coming on tonight. We're not done yet. I mean, I'm being nostalgic at this moment. Great music, great relationships, great conversations. We got this. We got this. We get to move forward. And let's bring our brothers and sisters with us when we do this. Dr. Maki, what are we working on right now? Oh, we got to get a mic up.
Located in Los Angeles. Oh, okay. Oh, can you hear me now?
Got you now, brother.
Yeah, we are located in Los Angeles, and we have a monument that is 25 years old, that is black granite, kind of like the Vietnam Memorial, but it's shaped differently, obviously. And our monument has sat in the middle of a parking lot for 25 years. But just this year in February, we've broken ground on a brand new 5-story building that will surround our monument, embrace our monument. But even more exciting than that, this building will give us a permanent home to continue to tell our stories, but it will also house restaurants and other businesses in the Little Tokyo area in Los Angeles. And it's also going to have 248 units of subsidized low-income housing to address the homelessness issue in Los Angeles. So it's our way of emulating what our veterans did 80 years ago. Our motto is "Go for Broke," and I haven't had a chance to explain that, but "Go for Broke" was actually a gambling term that the soldiers used. It means go all in, bet it all. And the Japanese American soldiers, especially from Hawaii, loved to gamble. So they would say, "Go for broke, go for broke." And they took that same spirit when they went to war, because they knew the stakes were so much higher that they had to go for broke. They had to go all in and fight for what they believed in. And today we continue to go all in, continue to go for broke, in trying to make our nation, our society a better place by serving not only ourselves, but by serving others in need in the Los Angeles area.
I am inspired again. Thank you for all that you're doing. Again, keeping our brains in a space where we can continue to learn and grow, and just you're just like all of our veterans and first responders that have boots on. You're just one of those doers. We appreciate you, Doc.
Well, I appreciate that, but I would never say that I'm the same as a veteran and a first responder, because I hold those guys and women in such high esteem.
Well, I appreciate that as well, but thank you for being a doer, and that's the piece I'm focusing on. That is actually one of our call to actions, and I need to do better at this, because I wrote it on a little index card in MySpace, and I've asked others to do it. We should probably bite the bullet and get a bunch of index cards printed out specifically about your life mission. What is your life mission? And if you're not part of the solution, legitimately, you are part of the problem. And the solution is your version of you tomorrow should be better than your version today. And so what we're going to ask you to do is find an index card, and we'll try and get some printed up and get them sent out to people. But basically, it's a simple thing, a question that you ask yourself. What are you doing? So many times we hear that couch quarterback tell us how we should be doing our job, how we should be doing this, how we should be doing that. We got people out there saying, and what are they doing? Hold them accountable. Don't start wars. Don't start fights. Don't get on those social media posts and rip up all this nonsense. It doesn't need to be there. But hold people accountable for their actions and their words. But ultimately, hold yourself accountable by putting yourself in the place to make decisions that makes you a better person tomorrow than you are today. That's our first call to action today.
Hey, Mark.
Yes, sir.
Is Doc still on?
Yeah, he's there.
Hey Doc, I got a question. I didn't come into the first half of the conversation. Are you 100% Japanese?
On both sides, yeah. I'm what we call third generation. All four of my grandparents are from Japan. My parents were born in Hawaii, and I was born here in LA. But yeah, ethnically Japanese.
So I want to tell you one of the most humbling, most iconic experiences of my entire life, right? A lot of people call it a deployment, some people don't, but I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan for a year, right?
Mm.
And the one thing that I wanted to do, man, you're a young Marine on the island and you do what you got to do and you don't sit there and you don't really embrace the culture. I was like, you know what? Before I go back to the States, I'm going to do something really cool. Because in another life, I would have been a history teacher and a football coach, right? Peterson, you can grab that. But yeah. So I went on the battle sites tour in Okinawa for World War II, and it was so cool to like see, the way the Japanese came up the ocean banks and how the Americans actually attacked and seeing the whole battle plan. And then I actually had a neighbor of mine when I lived in South Carolina before I moved to Nashville. It's like right after I got out of the Corps. And I was talking to him, and he was actually on one of those ships waiting to invade Okinawa. So I'll tell you what, man, I've got a huge respect for the Japanese and the World War II battle and the raising of Iwo Jima and all that. I mean, the flag raising of Iwo Jima, because I went through the battle sites tour, and it's so cool how, after all that, we can all come together.
Yes. Yes.
Something else crazy that would be going on, man. So hey, my hat's off to you.
Thank you. But your point's so well taken that 80 years ago we were, Japan and the United States were just terrible enemies, and now we are, such strong allies.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We're going to need each other's allyship as we go forward.
80 years ago, like
exactly right. Yep.
people are alive. Not many.
It's been 80 years, man, since World War II. I mean, oh my God.
People are alive that were in that existence, and it just blows me away again the progress of our world, of our world. I mean, we had, oh my gosh, I love when we get to do better, and I love when we get to celebrate it, and keep that thought and keep it rolling. And tomorrow, again, back to our call to action: make yourself a better person tomorrow than you were today. So I appreciate all this. Chris Turner, you got another song?
I do, man. Which one you guys got queued up? Is it Keith?
Yes.
All right, so let me give you, well, first of all, for the country, man, that iconic photo, whenever I found out that Trump got shot last weekend, not trying to dive into politics, it could have been Biden or anybody else. But the first thing I thought about was like, you know what? I did it for you. I did it for me. I did it for the red, the white, and the blue, for the land of the free. And you see that iconic photo, and I'm like, dude, I hit the mark whenever we wrote that song, because it says so much about that. Whether, like I said, whether it's Trump or Biden or Obama or anybody else, man. I mean, when you take a bullet for the country, I mean, we've all done in the military. We all think about that, or we've all done it, or whatever the case may be. But it was really cool. But this song, Keith, man, I actually wrote it with Cooper Lane. He's a very young, aspiring artist, man. He's 19 years old, and I love that kid to death. He's very great at his talent. And he came to me with an idea, and he was like, "Hey, man, I want to write a song called Feeling Whitley." It's like, man, when you've been in my life, you know Keith Whitley. I was like, I know him on a first name basis. We need to write a song called Keith and not Feeling Whitley. Everybody's got a Keith Whitley song. It's like, but he touched me at a young age, and this is what we need to write. So I'm really proud of it. I kept it raw because Keith came up through the bluegrass, and oddly enough, I don't know if I can say it or not, but I'm going to. But I'm actually going to be in a movie that's got Keith Whitley in it. Probably, I think we start filming in September, And it's really cool how everything comes full circle. And I'm really, really proud of this song. Really proud of Cooper Lane for writing it with me. And yeah, it's great. It's a really cool song. So it's stripped, it's raw, something that you don't get every day from Chris Turner. So hope you guys enjoy it.
This is
Nice.
Chris Turner and Keith.
Been known to hit some old side roads more than a time or two. Combing through my soul, searching for three chords and the truth. Those sad songs and waltzes ain't sold a lick this year. The legends live on through the songs that we hear. He was more than just a star, he's a friend I never met. He had a way with words we've never heard, he was a hero on cassette. That Kentucky bluebird, know he's always gonna sing. You might know him as Whitley, but I know him as Keith. A stranger to the rain, well, I don't claim to be. I still fight with the devil between an old memory and me. Yeah, that hard living always seems to make a strong man fall, but the demons always win when you say nothing at all. He was more than just a star, he's a friend I never met. He had a way with words we've never heard, he was a hero on cassette. And that Kentucky bluebird, you know he's always gonna sing. You might know him as Whitley. Yeah, he was more than just a star, he's a friend I never met. He had a way with words we've never heard, he was a hero on cassette. Yeah, that Kentucky bluebird, you know he's always gonna sing. You might know him as Whitley. Yeah, you might know him as Whitley, but I know him as Keith. I know him as Keith.
That is Chris Turner with Keith. I like how in that song you actually use some of Mr. Whitley's lyrics in your song. I caught that.
There you go. At least you caught it. That's great, man. Yeah, it's some of my favorite songs is like No Stranger to the Rain and When You Say Nothing at All, and I just tried to figure out a way to put it all together to where it paid some kind of homage to one of the greatest voices to ever grace a microphone, man. I mean, Keith Whitley is it. I mean, he is. I say that, man. Then you've got Johnny, then you've got Waylon, and I mean, everybody's got their own thing to where that's what depict them as an artist, right? But Keith Whitley has got this. He just had this soul, and it was so sad the way he ended up, man. And I know the true story behind it. I won't get into it when we get together and have a beer and talk about the Sioux tribes and all that stuff in the Black Hills. I'll tell you the story about Keith and Lori. But yeah,
a life gone too soon for sure.
Yeah. It's I love that song, man. I think it's the sleeping giant on the whole record, to be honest with you.
I think it's a great song myself.
It's a tribute. It's a tribute to someone that impacted so many people, and you know what? That's called family, and we all bring it back together, and we all lift each other up. So, Dr. Mackey, you got this new your memorial going up. You got a place for it. What is the big mission that you are working on past this? What do we see Dr. Mackey doing here in the near future?
Oh, good question. But I think I love telling the story, and our organization is all story. But it's important for us to tell it to the new generations, and not just people who lived it, because they know the story. So again, our emphasis is talking, understand the story, and the way we tell it is hopefully in a way that inspires them to get involved. And it's kind of like what you were saying earlier, Mark. If you're not working to solve a problem, you're part of the problem. And so we're not here to tell people what to do or how to do it, but just to do it, and to get involved, to become civically engaged, to become a part of the discussion of how do we address our society's challenges right now, so that we can continue to be on that path to being a more perfect union.
Is there like a docu-series on this information that you're aware of?
Well, if people want to know more, I would have them start by going to our website, goforbroke.org, and we have a lot of information. We also have 1,200 interviews with our Japanese American veterans. What we call it Hanashi, which means to tell a story. And we interviewed 1,200 veterans. Some of these interviews are several hours long, but we try to distill them, and we're in the process of boiling them down to bite-sized pieces. If people also want to go to our YouTube site, we have a lot of interesting videos on our YouTube site, Go for Broke National Education Center. So that might be a nice place for people to start.
Absolutely. What an amazing, it's a gold mine of I, I, I don't want to sound great. It's gold mine of content. I mean, is what it is. And it's
right.
Because so much history.
Within the next couple of years, as I mentioned, we're not going to have these veterans with us anymore. They're all going to have passed, and that's true for all of our World War II veterans, right? I mean, right now, if you were a World War II veteran, you're probably 98, 99 at the youngest, and older than that. So in the next few years, we're not going to have them with us. And so whatever interviews people can get their hands on for any of our veterans of World War II, they're, like you said, they're golden, they're platinum, because we're never going to be able to hear that again from them.
Oh my gosh, I got chill bumps with just the knowledge and the strength of that knowledge, and just the culture, B, the history, the knowledge, all of it. I'm just I know where I'm going to be spending some of my time. That's for sure.
Let me leave you one last thought, and that is that our young next gen program, we call them the torch bearers, because they're carrying the torch into the future. And one of them said, and I think this is true not only for Japanese American veterans, but for all of our World War II veterans. But what she said was, the legacy of our Japanese American veterans of World War II, but again, we can substitute the legacy of all our World War II veterans, is that they fought for the future of those that they loved and those that they would never know. And it is so true, right? That the things we are able to do today may be because of a family member or somebody who served during World War II, but it's also due to all those veterans, all those service members, male and female, who never knew us, will never get to know them, but we live their legacy every day.
Well, ironically enough, brother, that is our pledge. We know why we get to do this, and we We thank all the service. There is no one going up and down the grocery aisle right now worried about why or how they got there. They're finding their ho-hos, their bonbons, and their Doritos and Pepsi Cola, not to give Pepsi Cola any. But no one worries about that stuff. But right now, you got men and women running into burning buildings because they want to serve. And I appreciate you, Mr. Mackey. I appreciate your knowledge. I hope you can hang out a little bit after the show for a little collaborative part and see how we can put all the puzzle pieces together. If you have time, great. If not, we completely understand. You've given us more than an hour tonight, and we appreciate everything that you've taught us. And that, I'm confident, is just the tip of the iceberg. Yeah. And there's not enough time. But you're welcome on this show at any time to share more. And let's. Oh, we haven't said it tonight. We gotta grow together. Let's grow. Let's grow. Chris Turner, what's up next for you, brother? What are you working on? Look at your mic. Oh,
man, go to ChrisTurnerMusic.com. Download my new record, For the Country, iTunes, Apple Music. I appreciate all the love and support that you guys do with the People's Patriot Project. We've been friends for a long time, man. And every time I got something really cool to talk about, you guys always welcome me on. But you know what? Suicide is not like solve all the problems, but create a lot of problems for your weakness, and you leave them behind for everybody else. And everybody says stop 22. If we can stop one, we did our job. And I don't care about whatever I'm doing, man. If I can stop one, I did my job. I'm really excited about what we got going on in the future. You know, we're doing the Warrior Legacy Ranch show at the end of August, and I've got some other shows coming up, and you know, I've got some really cool collabs that are coming up that I'm being told that's going to happen from my publicist, and really excited about that. And yeah, I'm really excited about this whole new project, man, because it's literally the best stuff that I've ever done, and it's really great. But at the end of the day, I don't want to lose focus and try to forget, or even try to forget why I'm doing what I do, man, because music literally saved my life. So, you know what? Thank you guys for what you do. Dr. Mackey, thank you for what you do, brother. Jonathan, Andrea, Mark, you guys are freaking awesome. In my book, hey, come to Nashville. Let's have a beer. Let's hang out. Just do what we do, man. I love all of y'all. I appreciate it.
We haven't had our last one, that's for sure.
Chris, thank you for what you do. And as I mentioned, I downloaded your song, and I want to get back out to Nashville. I haven't been out there for a while, and if I do, I'm going to look you up.
Well, come on, man. Hey, that's what we do.
We can.
That's
we
what
make
we do.
these
You can ask
connections.
Andrea and Mark, man. They come to town. We have a good time, man. We have a great time.
We do, and we make this is family now, Dr. Mackey. We got a new doctor in the house, and we're like stray cats. Once we are in, we don't let go, and you're gonna have to be part of the game with us. You all right with that?
All right.
And Mark, I don't know exactly what the date is yet, but I do know that we're doing a big blowout for an EP release party at 3rd and Lindsley in Nashville, probably the middle of August. So as soon as I get the solid date, I'll send it to you and Andrea and all you guys to where you can put it out there. And I'd love to have you guys down here. It's going to be great.
I need to have
a good time.
I need to have a reason to come down. I need one more big bang before the end of the summer. I haven't had a chance to let my hair down this summer, so maybe that's the opportunity. We'll get some people down there, Chris.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I'll leave you with this. It's like, hey, I'm your Huckleberry. Say when.
Yeah, there you got it. There we go. So this is at the point of the show where we talk about growth. We talk about the things that we've learned. We give our final thoughts. Normally we let Jonathan start it because he always eloquently has a deeper thought than I'm capable to come up with during the interviews. And what do you got, Jonathan?
I noticed the Keith Whitley, the lyrics in that song as well. And the one part that stuck out to me is you said the demons always win when you say nothing at all, right? I think that's a big problem is for everybody, not just people fighting demons. But I think as a people, as a generation, as a country, as a world, there's a lack of verbal communication that transpires between people when there's a difference of opinion. And I think, I served. I'm proud to be an American, but I think this is bigger than an American problem. I think it's a people problem. 8 billion of them. But our founding fathers, I know we don't bring up religion, but or we don't like to. But our founding fathers believed in something to the tune that they wrote, that we are all created equal. And if we can just get that thought in our heads and communicate what is going on, we can meet on a common ground, because we all stand on the same common ground to start with. So
awesome. Miss Eichmann.
Well, I just want to touch on again, and thanks for coming. I've been looking at so much of your work, Dr. Maki. There's so much. I started with LinkedIn and just went from there. And so thank you for sharing all that you know and all that you've found. And now I need to go look at the interviews and listen to the interviews and the stories. And I wanted to comment quick. We did interview a World War II veteran a couple years ago, and he was 98 and a half. And that half, when you get to that point, is one of the most important things to include when people ask how old you are, because it's almost there, but it's not quite. And you never know, if you get to the next one. So thank you so much. There's so much there. I can't wait to get deeper in. And so I was thinking about what you said and your initial question, and your response to your own question, because of course we didn't quite know that response. And why would so many Japanese Americans jump in? And I'm always looking, I love diversity studies too. So I was just talking with someone yesterday about the Native Americans and the code talkers, and how they still struggle. Some of them live on reservations and can't get, they just, generations of them, of those who have served, are still there, and still should be our concern to take care of them as well. And then you include I had an uncle who lived on Hawaii all his life. And I was reading, you have also, I'll reach out to that group as well. It's amazing. And I think we need to start thinking about, it's not just our Caucasian, white, founding father and ancestors that we need to think about. It's all of the new people who come to our country all the time. We worked with a group also who, this makes my mind flip, of Mexican soldiers from Mexico who fought in our wars, who can't get citizenship. I don't understand that. I don't know why that's even a thought, not fixed yet. And so there's so much out there. So I need to come to California and see that center, and that monument is what I would like to do, along with Nashville, and to see Chris again. So it all wraps up. I wanted to put it all in the same boat, and that it kind of came through your words, Dr. Maki, how it is, we all need to be a part of the healing and the solutions, and putting it together and learning about each other, because there's not so many differences, really. There's so many likenesses. And so thank you. Thank you for coming. I do need to mention next week our guest. He will be coming from the Appalachia area. James Howard is bringing Outward Bound Appalachia to us. And he himself is just coming back from like a 2-week adventure. I know I saw him snorkeling in Hawaii, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was Hawaii. Oh, yes, it was, because he did have pictures of the memorial then that he visited as well. So he'll be on to tell his adventures and tales and his mission. And so we look forward to meeting him as well.
I don't know how to put this out there. Have we sprung the news on Jonathan yet?
Oh, that we're going to be like in the air at 6:00 next Sunday, potentially. Yeah,
Jonathan,
no.
you're going to have to find some teammates to run the show next week. Sorry, buddy.
Well, I mean, we can jump in on our phones, probably on the landing strip. That is probably, running through the airport.
We'll get it figured out. Dr. Maki, any final thoughts tonight, brother?
Well, I just want to thank you for having me on, and I think it was a stroke of genius to have me on and Chris on, because if I were to sum up the last hour and a half, I think it's Chris's song. We're all in the same boat, and the stories that we've been telling, and as specific as it is about the Japanese American experience, but really, as I said, it's really an American experience, and it's something we all have to be concerned about, and we all have to be concerned about making our nation stronger and better. And like Chris says, or like Chris sings, we're all in the same boat. And I think that really captures tonight's discussion.
We don't script this. We don't magically put our guests together, and we have been absolutely blessed by the curation of opportunity. And I am glad you have been touched, Dr. Mackey. I'm glad that it's weird how we get this uncanny, weird connection with our guests and the people that. Bottom line is, here's the deal: we're all doing good things. That's the truth. And when good people are doing good things, you find that mindset, you find that parallelism, you find that connection, and that's how I know what we're doing is a great thing. And so, thank you, Doctor, for being here. Chris Turner, what do you got in closing, brother?
Man, you know what? Like Dr. Mackey said, you know what? I think the world is great and everybody's got a good heart. The bad thing is you've always got rotten apples who just try to run that stuff in the ground, man. And if we can get out of each other's way and just hug somebody and smile, you know, in the Marine Corps, you got two colors, dark green and light green. There is no other color green. You got two colors. That's it. And then whenever people are out here talking about, you know, racism, whether it's Japanese or Koreans or Chinese or black or white or pink or purple or whatever, I'm like, man, you know what? Let it go, man. I mean, shit. I'm sorry, FCC laws, but I get so aggravated because I'm like, you know what, dude, I got you back. I don't care who you are, but if you're bringing too much drama into my life, I don't want nothing to do with you. I'm trying to help you out. So my thing in closing is like, you know what? Hug somebody, kiss them on the forehead, and tell them how much you appreciate them. Because I'm telling you right now, we all only get so many trips around the sun, and it's how you absolutely try to take those trips to what matters. And my granddaddy told me a long time ago, he's like, you know what? You got one job in this world. I said, what? He's like, you need to leave it just a little bit better than what you found it. And if I do that, then I did my job, man. Whether that's through music, whether that's through me being personable and my character or whatever, but man, we got to quit being so pissed off at everybody, man. Just hug somebody. And I'm out.
It's the proud papa moments. Again, it's growth. It's growing. It's being together. It's learning from each other. It's giving a commonality of understanding. It's receiving with grace. All these things are things we talk about in our show, on our show. Our show is unique in the fact that we're willing to build this collaboratively together. We don't always get it right, but we're willing to have the conversation. If you want to be part of this, reach out. We're looking for time, talent, and treasure from anyone that wants to be part of something bigger than themselves. If you want to live in your world by yourself and do your thing, do your thing. We appreciate you. We will accept you, and we will even walk by your side and help when you need help. But this doesn't get done without the amazing people that give in a little bit. And we're not even asking a lot. Just have that real conversation. Build it in tomorrow. Our call to action, our next one, is everyone's got a device on them. We full-heartedly know and believe, and this is our truth. We are a relational human that needs people in their lives. Back to what Chris was talking, we don't need the cancer. We need the positive interactions of like-minded people. I challenge you, text in your text. I was just thinking about you. Cut and paste that into 6 other conversations and send it to any. Uh-oh. I don't even know what that is. That was like a bucking bronco. Paste that into 6 conversations of people. Yes, our mission first are veteran and first responders and making sure we're taking care of them. We also know that we are in a global situation where people are not thinking through situations. I don't care who it is. It's in your contact list. Reach out to 6. We'd like you to do that daily, but we're going to do it for sure every Sunday. I do ask you to take one of the hardest conversations you've ever had and try and reach out to that one that you got sideways with a little bit. Misunderstanding. It's been a little too long. You in your mind say, hey, there was something of value at one time. I do that, and here's my testimony, is because I had a brother that lost his life because of alcoholism, and I didn't take that next step. So I get to live with that in my heart and in my mind. That's a piece that I get to live with. It's not something I necessarily, take to bed at night and worry about, but it is a piece that I miss my brother, and if I'd have been there for him, he may still be here for me. So make that hard conversation. We appreciate both of you for being on our show tonight. Thank you to the amazing team who has carried a gigantic, significant load this summer as I've been off. I'm not having a great time, but I am actually doing a little extra side hustle here that takes a little bit more time than I thought it was going to take. We appreciate all those people that have come onto the show and shared. Thank you, Scotty Frazier. Thank you, Dylan Petrie. Thank you, Jeremy Daniels, all for being here tonight. If I've left anyone out, I apologize. I'm scanning real quick. Eric Mello.
Adam Bird.
Yep. The list goes on and on. We appreciate all of you. We don't get to do
Mark,
what we do without you guys. Yes, sir.
Can I say one last thing?
No.
And
yes.
I'll leave you guys with this seriously. If you're going to show up, make sure you always show out. Period.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like if you're going to show up to do something, make sure you always show out and you're the best version of yourself that you could possibly be. If you don't show up, then don't worry about showing out. But if you show up, make sure you show out.
It's worth that commitment. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you. Check us out tomorrow at 4:30 for our weekly debrief. Again, if you guys got a chance to hang around for a minute after, we'll have a little post show. And again, come check us out next Sunday. You're going to see Jonathan, and whatever, we'll help you up until we can't help you anymore, Jonathan. It'll be amazing regardless. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. Patriot Pride.